Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Jenny. So in today's video, I'm bringing to you another product review, and this is gonna be the BA Light palette that is new from Becca Cosmetics. And just look at how beautiful this palette looks. And this is what the palette looks like inside. It's so beautiful. I was really afraid to even touch it because it just looks too perfect to be touched. The shade that I got, this is the light to medium one because I saw the medium to deep and it had some of the colors that were too dark for me. At least the blur powder looked really dark for my skin tone, so I don't think that one would have worked for me. But basically what this palette claims to do is that it has 4 different powders. That number 1 is a brightening powder that you can use all over the face to brighten and boost radiance. Number 2 is a blur powder that you can use all over the face to blur imperfections and even out the complexion. And then we also have number 3, which is a contour powder to sculpt and define your features. And lastly, a blush that you can use on the cheekbones to add a pop of color and light. So I think overall the palette looks beautiful and it retails for $46. And before I forget, here are some swatches of the powders. So this one right here is the brightening powder. So as you can see, it's very subtle. It doesn't really show off much on the skin. And if you look at it closer, it actually has some shimmer in it. The second one right here is the blur powder. So that's the one that you can use all over the face to remove any imperfections. And this one right here is the contour powder, and this one is the blush. So as you can tell, I have foundation on, and the only powder that I have applied on my face, it was a little bit of my Laura Mercier translucent powder to set my concealer. But I apply very little because I don't think this palette claims that it also sets your face. So I wanted to make sure to set my concealer. So we're gonna start by using the brightening powder. I have to say that I think, just in my opinion, probably using the blurring powder should go first and then the brightening powder. But they even have it right here in the back, the numbers in the order that you should do. So it's first is number 1, the brightening powder, then it's the blurring powder, and then it's the contour and blush. But we'll do it as Becca says, you know, because I'm pretty sure that's the way that the product will work better. So I'm just gonna use a very fluffy brush that I have right here, and I'm gonna go into the brightening shade. I have to say that it is a little bit powdery. I don't know if you can see right here, I dipped my brush very lightly and there's a lot of fallout right here. And I think the way I'm gonna do this is that I'm gonna apply all of these powders one half of my face so that we can compare and see how much of a difference I guess it does. As you can see right now, my base is just completely flat. I don't have any definition. Okay, so I'm going into the brightening powder and I'm gonna apply it right here under the eye where I would normally want to get more brightness. Honestly, this powder, it's like I can see the powder sitting a little bit on top of my skin, but let me see. With one layer, I didn't see much of a difference. I think I can see a little bit of a difference. I'm gonna do the entire forehead and also the entire chin. I just wanted you to see the difference in one eye to the other, just because I think that's where I will wanna be more highlighter, if that makes sense. Honestly, this is very subtle. Like, I don't think I see much of a difference. I guess when I think of a brightening powder, I immediately think that it will actually show a difference, and I don't think I see that with this powder. I guess bottom of the story with that powder is that to me it doesn't show off on your skin. Like, I think I already applied 2-3 layers, and honestly It's just making my face looking a little bit more powdery. I don't know. Okay, so now I'm gonna try the blurring powder. I'm just using this Morphe huge powder brush. Okay, so now we're going into the blur powder. And if you look at it, it is slightly darker than the brightening one, so we'll see. I would expect it to have a tint. Oh yes, you can totally see it in the brush. The brush was completely clean before I started. Okay, so this one, they say that you can apply it everywhere on your face. So I'm gonna start by applying this just on that half of the face that I'm working with, just so that I can compare to the one I don't have any on to see if there's any difference. Okay, what I can tell you is that it definitely has a slight tint to it. And let me do another layer. Okay, I know that I am applying powder because I see it on my brush. So I think I can totally see that it blurs, you know, any large pores by a little bit. So I definitely can see this one better. However, just keep in mind that it doesn't give you any crazy blurring, perfecting skin effect. So don't expect this to completely erase your pores or any imperfections. Recently, I have been very dry, and then the fact that I am applying so many powders on my face, it's emphasizing this area right here in which I have a little bit of dryness, and I definitely don't like that. And I think it's because the powder is just grabbing onto the dry areas and it doesn't blend as smoothly, I guess. But just keep in mind that that is just my skin, because I have dryness on this area. So if you have dry skin, then maybe this powder might not be for you. So now I'm gonna use the contour powder, and it says that it's meant to be used to sculpt and define features. So I'm just gonna apply this on the areas where I would normally add contour or bronze my skin. Okay, I think this one I can totally see. I honestly don't think that they should call it a contour powder, just because it is very subtle that it almost works as a bronzer. I can totally see a bronze, a natural bronze to the skin, so it's nothing really harsh. Just look at the difference. This one is flat, and just look at this side. I can totally see how the powder did make a difference on this side when it comes to bronzing the skin. So now let's move into the last powder, which is the blush. And I do love how the way it looks on the pan. And just know that this is gonna be for sure a shimmery blush. So I'm gonna apply that blush just on the apples of my cheeks. Ooh, I do love that blush. Okay, it's definitely very pigmented. I'm gonna try to blend it in with the bronzer contour shade. Ooh, yeah, that one I for sure love. It gives you such a beautiful glow to your skin. So let me just go ahead and do the other side of my face, and I'll be back with my final thoughts. Okay, so I'm back with my final thoughts. So I went ahead and completed my other side of my face, and as you can see now it's all even. Let's talk about what I think of the palette. So I think that when it comes to the #1 powder, which is the Brighten powder, honestly, that powder made no difference on my skin. I was barely able to see it, and the only moment where I think I could actually see it was looking at myself really close in a mirror, and more than anything is because of the small shimmery particles within the powder. So it's not like it gives you like a, you know, overall brightness effect, but honestly I can live without that powder. So now moving to the other powder, which is #2, this is the Blur powder. Okay, the powder definitely helps you to give you a very subtle blurriness effect to the skin. It did help with erasing some of my pores and imperfections. However, it is very subtle, so just don't expect that this powder will completely change, you know, your entire face, because it's not the case. It is very subtle. So with that being said, my only concern is that it does give you an overall bronziness to the skin. So I want to say it gave me probably like a half of a shade of foundation darker than what my foundation looked before I apply this powder. So just keep that in mind. You might like this, you might not. In my case, I did like it because I feel like that it gave me an extra bronziness to the skin, and I think for this time of the year that is very pretty. But just know that that powder, I guess it doesn't promote that it's gonna give you that bronziness to the skin. So that's my only thing, because it does claim that it's gonna blur imperfections and even the complexion. So I think it definitely did that, but in a very subtle way. So just know that. Now, when it comes to the other two powders, which are the contour powder and then the blush, I actually really like those two. I think the contour, to start off, honestly, I liked it better as a bronzer. So I think for contouring, I will prefer something darker and probably more pigmented that will really help me sculpt my face. And I know you might be thinking, but there was a darker palette, and I am using the light to medium palette, but when I look at the darker shade palette, it actually, the colors overall are too dark for me, and I think I will probably not be able to use all 4 shades. So don't get me wrong, I really love this contour powder, but what I'm saying is that I prefer using it as a bronzer, because just look at my face. It definitely gives you such a beautiful bronze overall. So I think as a bronzer, I really like. However, if I think I'm gonna be using that powder more constantly, just look at the size of that pen compared to the other ones. This one is very small compared to the other two on the side. So that's that. And then the blush, it is a beautiful blush. So I think overall the palette retails for $46, and I think, in my opinion, I don't think I will ever be reaching out to the brightening powder. I'll probably use the blur powder, and I totally like the contour and the blush powder. So for me, paying $46 for something that I am not gonna be using all of the powders within the palette, I don't think it makes sense, especially because the blur powder, it's like in the borderline where I don't need it to create my makeup look. I don't think I need it. I can definitely create my makeup look without that one. I definitely love the bronze and the blush. So, and then just looking at the sizes within the palette, I honestly will probably rather use a different bronzer and blush. So I would say that overall, I think I can live without this palette. I can't tell you that I recommend it or not, because I think if you look for something very subtle, you might like this palette. So those are just my thoughts. I think for the price, I can probably go with something else. But with having said that, I think this wraps up this video. I really hope you enjoy watching this review. And before you leave, don't forget to subscribe down below if you haven't done that yet. And then hit that notification bell so that you know every time I upload videos. But with that, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!